The impacts of that fateful Tuesday, September morning of 2001 are still felt 24 years later. The TSA receives over $10 billion annually to inspect water bottles and to make sure that jackets and shoes are put in the correct X-ray trays. The TSA has a legacy of letting weapons and other banned paraphernalia get through their security checks. Their surveillance state of the Five Eyes countries was perfected in 2001 to present, justified largely on the premise of safety. Were all of the civil liberties voluntarily given away by U.S. citizens really justified by increased safety? Countless lives were lost and billions spent in the Middle East during wars of aggression following that event. What was the justification for invading Iraq? Weapons of mass destruction. Even the Mockingbird media will tell you that WMD justifications were certifiably false. Did all of the US and Iraqi soldiers really have to die? Someone thought it was a small price to pay in order to further their agendas. I can't help but wonder how many of these and many other consequences of that day could have been avoided if more people had noticed the glaring anomalies which contradict the official story. Books can and have been written on this subject, but are largely relegated to the fringe section of Amazon. Here's one example: hijacked planes defying the laws of physics. This footage shows an explosion without an airplane approach being visible.
This newly compiled footage from the National Institute of Science and Technology is going to blow you away. Pay attention to the details. Do you see anything strange? Let's play it again. How about now? Do you see anything strange? If you pay attention, without any doubt, you can see the nose of this plane exit the other side of the building. You've seen this exact same footage before, but from a different angle. Now in this image, you can see the impact a bird can have on a plane. It's devastating to say the least. And yet we've been led to believe that a plane is more powerful than structural steel, that a plane meant to be lighter than air can cut through steel like a hot knife through butter. Now in this video, you can see that a bus cannot drive through a concrete wall. So what makes people think that a plane can fly through structural steel?
The US government wanted to test what would happen if a plane crashed into the concrete walls of a nuclear power station. The jet sets off, bolted to a track to prevent takeoff. It's doing 500 miles an hour. The plane atomized with the impact. It just disappeared into dust. Only the tips of the wings escaped total destruction. But the wall, designed to move and absorb energy, did its job well. When dealing with nuclear material, no test can ever be too drastic.
As you can see in this footage, the fighter jet did even worse than the bus. It was vaporized into dust. The World Trade Center wasn't made of concrete, ladies and gentlemen. It was a building made with grade A structural steel. The engineers that built the World Trade Center said it could have resisted multiple impacts from multiple planes.
On the morning of September 11th, 2001, 19 men armed with box cutters, directed by a man on dialysis in a cave fortress halfway around the world using a satellite phone and a laptop, directed the most sophisticated penetration of the most heavily defended airspace in the world, overpowering the passengers and the military combat-trained pilots on 4 commercial aircraft, before flying those planes wildly off course for over an hour without being molested by a single fighter interceptor. These 19 hijackers, devout religious fundamentalists who like to drink alcohol, snort cocaine, and live with pink-haired strippers, managed to knock down 3 buildings with 2 planes in New York. While in Washington, a pilot who couldn't handle a single-engine Cessna was able to fly a 757 in an 8,000-foot descending, 270-degree corkscrew turn to come exactly level with the ground, hitting the Pentagon in the Budget Analyst Office, where DoD staffers were working on the mystery of the $2.3 trillion that Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld had announced missing from the Pentagon's coffers in a press conference the day before on September the 10th, 2001. Luckily, the news anchors knew who did it within minutes.
Osama bin Laden.
The pundits knew within hours.
Osama bin Laden.
The administration knew within the day.
Terrorists who committed these acts
and those who harbor them.
And the evidence literally fell into the FBI's lap.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
Bullshit. It's got to be.
Why?
Because that would make my whole life a lie.
Play building blocks with me. What?
Ernest?
Please, Dion. Just one game.
One game.
How did it fall?
How did it fall? Forwards.
Why?
Well, it's about balance. You take it out one side, the balance is off, it topples over, and gravity pulls it down.
Every time?
Yeah.
Are you certain?
Yeah.
Now, when we play this, we pull out blocks from all over the structure because we don't want to be responsible for it falling over. Am I correct?
Yeah.
What happens if we only pull out blocks from one side?
Same thing.
Please demonstrate. So, they fall over,
Yeah.
not down.
No. Ernest, what's your point?
With any kind of building blocks, when you pull out the blocks from the side, it falls over at that point. Well, then explain to me how, when an aeroplane was flown into one of the Twin Towers on September the 11th, that building collapsed in on itself. What about the other tower? Scientifically, mathematically, or blockily, those buildings should have fallen over, not inwards. I mean, I'll concede to the idea that by some sort of miracle, one of those towers could have collapsed in on itself. But both of them? I'm afraid I doubted that the moment I watched it happen live. It is inconceivable that those planes brought those buildings down.
But watch a controlled demolition, it looks the same.
If a picture says 1,000 words, then our eyes can see 1,000 lies. See it to believe it.
Who would... How could... Who would do that? Why would they?
Fear.
9/11, like 7/7, is pure theatre. Nothing more.
September the 11th, 2001 was a ruse, a show, a charade that even a child could identify.
Bullshit. No fucking way. No way.
Dion, you need to understand
Not
that.
from us, she doesn't. She's got to do it herself.
Pardon?
She's got to do it herself. She's got to look, research, make an educated judgment. We can't do that for her. Right?
Right.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories concerning the attacks of September the 11th. Malicious lies that attempt to shift the blame away from the terrorists themselves, away from the guilty.